Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, as we are carrying on with the champion ranking videos, we are going to rank all the classes, and that is going to be the order in which we do our top 10 or top 15 lists. And before we get any further, need I remind you, these lists are obviously a mixture of my own personal thoughts and opinions combined with current game relevance and trends. In these lists, we primarily look at overall champion desirability, and the best way to explain it is how excited you are to pull that champion. How often do we see those champions at top levels of gameplay, in Alliance War, in Battlegrounds, because those are the reasons people actually use catalysts on the champions, mainly, especially in order to be competitive. Those are the meta champions. That is what makes champions valuable in this game. Obviously, we all have our own personal preferences, and we do enjoy specific characters, whether you particularly like Morbius because of the movie, or because you just like saying Morbin time, or because you maybe particularly like a playstyle for a specific champion, like Carnage in my case. Absolutely love using Carnage. It just feels right and good. It does not necessarily make these champions great or top tier deserving. They're not always anyways. Those are our own personal preferences, and we do need to kind of like separate that the best we can. And therefore, these lists will look different for each and every single one of us, based on the level of play that we have, based on commitment, based on the personal skill level, the masteries that you like to run, all that other stuff. So please do keep that in mind. And that said, let's get into the nitty-bitty gritty of the video. And here are the old class rankings. Previously, I ranked up Science at the very top, Cosmic and the second most powerful class, but with a very, very big apostrophe that Cosmic is kind of on the way down. And then we have Mystic in third, Skill in fourth, fifth was for Tech, and sixth was for Mutant. Needless to say, these lists have changed. To a degree anyways, and there's like one major change, and then there's quite a lot of things up for debate. Most importantly, I do feel like right now spots 2 to 6 are much closer than before. Previously we had Science class up at the very top, Cosmic class kind of a strong second, then Mystic, Skill and Tech, or Mystic and Skill relatively close by, then Tech and Mutant as the weaker ones, but Mutant being definitely the weakest one. I do feel like Kabam has done a good job kind of equalizing the power levels. Previously, yeah, they definitely had bigger gaps, but now we're going to see that, some champions have had a glow up, some tune-ups have been massive for these classes, some new release have been massive for these classes, and some classes have just kind of not hit the ground running or have not kept up, really speaking. So let's just get to Auntme, which is a wonderful website that has been updated recently, and I'm tremendously happy about that. And I still have Mutants at the bottom. Now, Mutants have made much better case for themselves, primarily because Onslaught has arrived and made an impact in the game. However, I do at the same time feel like Onslaught's value is decreasing at this point in the game, because he's not necessarily as fast-paced offensively for a lot of his utilitarian tasks, for him to be appreciated as a versatility attacker as much as he could be. He's still arguably the best mutant in the game, but he doesn't seem like as capable of an attacker as he did upon the release. And then, most importantly, we have gotten much more used to fighting him. I still think he's the best mutant, and he obviously has boosted the class up, but his mystique or his level of hype or his threat factor on defense has definitely decreased, especially after the Spring of Suffering and people learning how to fight better against him, and obviously people facing him consistently in Battlegrounds. And once you kind of get that fight down, it's nowhere near as dangerous as some of the other tough defenders or specific counter requesting. And that has also been like the one major release for the Mutant class. If Mutant class previously was very down below, then they definitely have climbed themselves up to be in the competition. As I mentioned, I just don't think they have bested other classes just quite yet, especially considering some of what I'm about to say, namely that 2024 champions in general have been kind of shit. I mean, they really have. If you take a look at all of the 2024 champions, aside from a couple of defenders and maybe a Prowler, the champions aren't topping the class charts, realistically speaking. And I kind of feel the same thing about Mutants. Now, Mutants have been getting more love this year with us seeing 3 Mutants already released, and that's alright. He's not crazy good by any means, offensively or defensively. Negasonic is a very, very versatile attacker, which I do think will prove to be impactful in Alliance Wars or in some specific, task challenges or story content. But in Battleground, she's nowhere near achieving the desired results, and also is not particularly big threat in defense. North Star, I'm not really counting him in because he's basically not released yet. Or if you do, no, I don't think he's released at all. Or no, he just got released, that's right, but nobody really cares about him because he's a ramp-up champion, and he has done nothing, and we can't really value him too much with absolutely no hype behind him. Looking at 2023, again, Danny Moonstar is not doing just about anything, so Onslaught's there, and then there are some minor and mild improvements to the class from Dust and Negasonic. So definitely has gotten better with the new champion releases, especially when we consider some other classes have gotten even less. And these are not the most unsuccessful releases in 2024 either, but overall power level from these champions has not quite delivered. The best thing to happen to Mutant class recently, besides Onslaught getting released, is Mr. Sinister. Like, when Negasonic got announced and when her abilities got leaked, everybody got super hype about that. But the true star of the show at that time was Mr. Sinister buff. There's just no way around it. The man is a machine. He's a defensive powerhouse and also a very versatile offensive champion that will finish fights full health. Not necessarily the fastest attacker if inequity is in play. That is also like a big factor. If you are using him anywhere where inequity mastery is not used, his damage output basically skyrockets and he starts smashing fulls much quicker. If you do use him with any nodes that have attack multipliers in, he becomes significantly more effective, just like with recall masteries, which he handles tremendously well. All that put together, Mr. Sinister is the most impactful mutant since Onslaught. And if you're actually valuing mutants, and we're obviously going to be getting to the mutant top champion list, you can count on Mr. Sinister being in top 5. The man's a menace, the man is extremely powerful, and we can't wait for him to be released as a 7-star. That's kind of like the biggest issue with Mr. Sinister currently. Everything else said, I think Mutant class is doing better than it was half a year ago, or even 9-10 months ago, for sure. But I don't think they have done quite enough to overtake the rest of the classes. And this kind of might be a surprise to you guys, but in spot number 5, I'm just going to put in Cosmics now. And that was like the big discussion point in my previous video, where Cosmic class has some of the biggest monsters in the game, without question. We have Hulkling, who's in the running for being the best Cosmic champion in the game. Honestly, he probably is. I do think Herc's role overall in the game has definitely decreased. His value everywhere else is high, but when it comes to Alliance War and when it comes to Battlegrounds, is definitely not as significant as it used to be, and Hulkling just keeps shining pretty much everywhere. It just works. On top of that, when Hulkling got released, we also had these massive debates, who's better, Hulkling or Gallon? Well, now we know, for sure. Gallon's cool, but he's kind of fallen off a bit, and Hulkling's still up there. And then we have CGR, who's experiencing glow up right now. And CGR is just crazy good right now. He counters a lot of the champions that he needs to counter. But the problem with all 4 of these champions, none of them are 7-stars. And their power levels are starting to fall behind. There's just no way around that. The more 7-star rank 3s appear, the less impact these 4 will have. And these 4 are the pillars of the Cosmic class. And if you take a look at Cosmic 7-stars, specifically and exclusively, they have like the worst 7-star roster of all the classes. Because none of the top hitters are present. The best Cosmic 7-stars would be Serpent and Venom and Hype and Null, probably. Am I missing anybody impactful? I don't think so. I mean, there are some solid champions, but nothing to, completely rave against. And yeah, I do think that out of all the classes, Cosmics have by far the weakest 7-star rosters. That is even where Mutants completely run ahead of them, with having Bishop, Mutant, Bishop, Domino, Havoc up there, Negasonic, Omega Red, Onslaught, Sunspot. So yeah, even Cosmics have better 7-star roster, objectively talking. But in Mutants have better 7-star roster than Cosmics. One thing that I forget to mention about Mutants is the Nightcrawler buff. But I think it has I don't think Nightcrawler's buff was anywhere near as successful as Mr. Sinister's, and also, well, another particular champion that we're going to discuss. So yeah, I think Cosmic Class is great. It's just Kabam made some Cosmic champions in their eyes too great, and now the entire class is going to suffer for it. That is what I expect. Now there is Beta Ray Bill coming, and Superior Iron Man is also getting a buff, even though Superior Iron Man currently does not exist as a 7-star, unfortunately. But those might inject some more power into the class. But as we stand right now, I definitely think Cosmic Class is nowhere near the dominant force they used to be. And I do think they are on the movement downwards and already have kind of like sunk quite a bit. Yeah, that is where we are here. So I do think Cosmic currently is the second worst class in the game, overall speaking. Moving on, that's going to be Tech. And Tech class has improved, definitely, due to like 3 major reasons, which is the reason why I still ended up ranking them over Cosmic. Number 1, Prowler is arguably the only solid offensive champion that we have had this year. Out of all the 2024 champions, we have Bullseye and we have Serpent, 2 most desired champions for sure. And then I'm quite sure it's Prowler is like the only one that's actually doing stuff on regular basis for the people who learn how to play him. Now, that said, unfortunately, in between Ironheart and Arcade, I think those 2 also have been quite unsuccessful releases. If either one of these champions would perform to highest standard, I think Tech class would be in much better place, but they kind of, in my opinion, are not the best additions to the game either. But we still have Fam going strong, and Shocker, his buff definitely has made himself into a top 5 tech option, which again is a major improvement to the class, which is exactly what helps them to kind of like stay afloat and move upwards in their overall value as a class. Because now we have Shocker, now we have Prowler, people are starting to appreciate that. And then obviously we need to talk about one of the new tech class kings, which is Red Skull. Red Skull is again similar case to Mr. Sinister. Both of those 2 are my favorite thing Kabam has done champion wise this year, to be honest. Bullseye and Serpent are desired and valuable, and you could argue that they are more important to have for sure, but they're disgusting champions. Nobody likes to play against them, and they should have never been made, in my opinion. Bullseye and Serpent are both cancer on this game that is absolutely destroying the fun of it. And Red Skull, just like Mr. Sinister, is having a similar impact. He is a defensive powerhouse, but he doesn't feel absolutely bullshit to play against, number 1. And number 2, he's fun. He's solid offensively now as well. He's a proper dual-purpose champion. He's one of the best tech champions right now, for sure. Outshining Shocker, outshining Prowler, and outshining most of the other top tech class champions. And Red Skull has been an absolute massive gain for tech class. There's just no question about it. In between having access to shock and power control and burst of damage and those massive armor ups with basically being crit resistant, and then also gaining access to auto block and unstoppable, access to heal block. He's doing much of what you'd expect a tech champion to do and more by being immune to nullify, fate seal, and stagger effects from champions. That is a specific code that is from champions and not nodes. He's obviously a domino counter, versus, as against mutants, his ability accuracy cannot be reduced. Massively tanky. And yeah, he's just great champion to exist in the game right now. Unlike Bullshit Serpent and Bullshit Eye himself. So, all of those things considered, I do think that Tech Class now overall presents more value, because Red Skull, just like Shocker, just like Prowler, also exists as a 7-star. That said, like, Nimrod has definitely taken a step down, there's no question about it, just like Ghost, but we still have some solid, relatively recent additions to the Tech Class in form of, Hulkbuster and Iron Man and Starking and Spider-Man exist as a 7-star. Warlock is becoming more, Warlock is just persevering, to be honest. Like, Warlock never went away, but it's surprisingly how well he's aging. And Shuri is still there, being an absolute gorgeous lady. Guardian is becoming more popular. So I do think more and more people are relying on different tech champions. Moving further, in spot number 3, now that Cosmics have fallen, we're giving skill. I genuinely wanted to give skill class the 2nd spot, for the most part. Because when it comes to skill champions, it kind of seems like they're doing everything. One of the bigger issues with skill class, though, or one of the things that I do dislike about skill class is that, again, just similar to Cosmic, the top options do not exist as 7-stars. Similar to Cosmic class, we have Kingpin, who's only as a 6-star, and we have Kate Bishop, who also exists only as a 6-star for now. Unlike the Cosmic class, though, skill is much more evenly balanced class to begin with, and it's only 2 of those champions, because the rest of the skill powerhouses, almost rest. Nick Fury also does not exist as a 7-star, almost forgot that. So let's say 3 of the 5 best skill champions do not exist as 7-stars, which is still less than the Cosmic ones, but a ton of amazing skill champions do exist as 7-stars. Skill class, in my opinion, provides more defensive value than Cosmic class does. And it kind of seems like there's a skill champion out for just about everything. We have Shield, we have Crossbones, we have some crazy good defenders in between Bullseye, Killmonger, Korg, and Atuma. So that's like, and Nick Fury as well. So that's like an extremely powerful defensive set there. Then we have like Valkyrie and Massacre, as in like the champions you bring in when you need to hit the opponent's block or do a lot of damage through block. Even though Valkyrie has kind of taken a step down. Zemo is occasionally popping as being super useful for specific nodes and metas and interactions. Then we have Black Cat and Shield and Crossbones, and again, Kingpin and Kate being like one of the dominant battlegrounds attackers and just amazing for like Necropolis and a ton of other new things. And Mole Man is receiving also a bit of a comeback session. So I genuinely think skill class is doing very, very well. And that's like one of the things that I have noticed for quite a while, going through different metas, going through different Alliance War seasons. You do end up using quite a lot of skill champions extremely frequently for like specific tasks, because it kind of seems like a Swiss Army knife class. Because there's the damage over time that's passive, that's extremely potent. There are champions that do not rely on damage over time effects and like massive damage, like Mantis again is being very, very big for the class. Then we have like access to slow, weight prevention, ability accuracy reduction. Again, different types of dots. Shrug off abilities are huge in the game currently still, even though Kabam's kind of clamping down on them. That said, Bullseye did not get nerfed, and that has been absolutely major addition to the class, despite how much I hate him, and I truly do. He is a very valuable addition to the game. Again, I think it's a disgusting addition to the game. I don't think he should ever be made, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to pretend he doesn't exist. He does, and he's huge. We're going to be cursing about Bullseye for a really, really long time. Unfortunately, they also got Silver Sable, who is the most pathetic champion added in the last couple of years. Silver Sable is a disgrace and should have never been released in her current state. She doesn't need a tune-up, she needs a fucking rework. Okay, whatever. That said, we still have Kate, Shield, Zemo, again, solid additions. Moondragon, not that successful. They haven't received any major buffs, though, recently, which is something that I would have absolutely liked to see as well, but you can't get everything, and I think skill class is doing just fine, being very, very healthy right now. Second best class is Mystics now, for sure. And Mystic is the class that kind of benefits from having almost all of the top champions as 7 stars. And that's like a huge thing. There are a few that do not exist as 7 stars, like Tigra, like Absban, and like Dr. Doom. But I would argue that they're not even, the top Mystic class options right now, because we do have a 7-star Juggernaut. I do not have any idea how Kabam allowed that. I also hate that guy for me not having a 7-star Juggernaut. But in between all of that, they received Kushala, which was one of the best additions last year. This year, there's White Tiger and Destroyer. Both are, let's say, above average champion, are not massive, but they do have their time and place, and they do bring some value in. But last year's champions, again, Werewolf by Night, Kushala, Kindred, if you do have him awakened, again, are giving you additional forms of it, additional powerhouse champions, effectively. Because Kushala has been absolutely instrumental for the Mystic class right now. Longshot is recently released as 7-star and is doing tremendously well. And then we have America Chavez that has had like a huge glow up. And I think like currently I would say definitely America Chavez has been like my most used successful rank up from the 7-stars, and probably the single champion that has benefited me and my decks and my account most in the last year. Kushala has been absolutely massive for me and my account. And again, that said, we still have Tigra that's absolutely nuking things for now. It will be interesting to see if we get a 7-star one. And then, again, in between Chavez and Juggernaut, we still have Sasquatch, again, tremendously good. Werewolf by Night is doing crazy good things. And Kushala, Symbiote Supreme, is receiving more attention than before. So has Mojo, partially because of the challenges. But still, Mordo is doing some good things, as well as Ebony Maw. So overall, I do think Mystic class is currently the second best class in the game. We do use a lot of them. Mystic is definitely, ever so present on offense, ever so present on defense. There are more and more utility mechanics that this class does possess. And Mystic Dispersion is still the most powerful class master in the game, which definitely kind of helps them a lot as well. That said, besides Mystic class being in spot number 2, we all know who's in spot number 1. And it's kind of ironic because Science class has a direct effect of Mystic class being contained, right? And if it wouldn't be for as powerful of a Science class, I think we would be seeing way more Mystics pretty much everywhere. That could speak to Mystic class not necessarily deserving to be in the second spot, but in my opinion, that's quite the opposite. Mystic class is so present, Mystic class is so used for offense and defense, despite the fact that they are getting directly bashed in by the strongest class in the game. Because Mystic class effectively owns most of the other class champions. Mystic class obviously has direct superiority over Cosmic. Mystic class is relatively good and successful against tech champions, against skill champions, as well as mutant champions. And that said, Science is just the best. It's just no disputing it. Even though Science class did not get anything worthwhile so far this year. Spider-Punk is not as bad as many people think he is. He's fairly solid in offense, but extremely safe. And I do think that with a minor change, Spider-Punk could be tremendously used and loved champion. But definitely he has not quite hit the hype button upon his release. But 2023 Science champions have been absolutely huge, in between Photon, Silk, and Cassie Lang as well. Those are crazy good. And then obviously the rest of the Science class also kind of having a glow up in Spider-Ham. Spider-Ham has been putting in work, and you can see him as a staple in modern MCOC pretty much, especially Battlegrounds. And then we have Titania, obviously just absolutely destroying things. We still have Scorpion, that's an absolute utility machine, even though Scorpion has definitely taken a step back. Red Guardian got recently released and is more than likely soon to come to the game. It's 7-star, and Red Guardian is experiencing a lot of love currently from the summoners. Again, Photon is carrying on to do Photon things. Hulk post buff is an absolute destruction machine. And that's like one of the things that absolutely has helped the science class, because previously we looked at the science champions as like debuff heavy champions that are relatively slow and, you know, have a lot of utility. Now, science class, just like every other class, has their nukes. Now, science class does have like Silk, who's very, very fast. Titania is quite fast. Spider-Ham can put up some ridiculous scores. And yeah, we do have, you know, plenty of nuke champions, covering also solid bits of utility. And then on top of that, science is like one of the most utility-filled classes. There are some troubling science for science class though. Number one, Torch has fallen off drastically. He was the king of science class for an extremely long time. Not so much anymore. He still has definite place in the game, but it's nowhere near as dominant as it was. And so is Scorpion, actually. Scorpion kind of took the crown from him for a while. And Scorpio is just one of those champions that you really want out as a 7-star. Because Scorpion always was the most impressive when he was ranked up as high as possible, because he had great utility, and with high enough rank, he was quite fast too. Now, with lower rank, he has lost a ton of his defensive value because his health pool is quite small, and if you can nuke him down fast, he virtually does nothing on defense. And then, also offensively, he becomes significantly less valuable. And yeah, either one of these champions would tremendously benefit from being released as 7-stars. That said, the new guard's kind of taking over from them in between Silk, Photon, Titania, and Hulk, and Spider-Ham being, in my opinion, current likely science top 5. And they're absolute menaces and monsters. So, that is what I currently think of MCOC. I do think that these rankings, again, including even science class, to be honest, are much, much closer. I think half a year ago, there wasn't much room for debate, again, in the class rankings. I think it was fairly cut out, or very little discussion, maybe in between, you know, skill and tech or skill and mystic or something like that. Then now, I do think science class has the slight edge still. I do think mystic class comes in second. Perhaps you can debate skill class over that. And the rest of the classes ranked pretty much, you know, accordingly. I do think they're split by an inch rather than a mile, opposed to how it used to be. That also means that the first top champion ranking video is going to be of Mutant class. All that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm going to catch you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information